everyone, finally we reached to the last session of audit and attestation, which is forming conclusion and reporting, other reporting consideration. This is part 3. Please go through the part 1 and part 2 as well. So in this part 3 we will be covering in detail about additional reporting requirement under Governmental Accountability Office, which is Governmental Auditing Standard. We'll also cover special purpose audit consideration and other country reporting framework, plus we'll also cover the key audit method, and then we do some practice question. So let's dive into for more detail to finish our audit and attestation classes.
So far we have covered comparative statement and consistency between the period, other information, review engagement, supplementary information. Now we'll be covering additional reporting requirement under Government Accountability Office and special purpose and other country framework requirement. So for key matter and other one, like I have not done with the notes, I'll send you the notes. Those are very small topic, 1 or 2 page only. Right. So these are two major topics we're going to cover now. One is the Government Accountability Office, and the second one is special purpose and other country reporting framework. Cool. So can you all see my notes? Can you all see my notes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's get into additional reporting requirement under Government Accountability Office, Government Auditing Standard. So I know, like in chapter 2 we discuss in detail about the government audit. There we have discussed, like the government audits are being required, like more things in addition to like financial statement audit and internal control audit. So in government audit you need to follow 𝐂𝐻, right? So 𝐂𝐻 actually include your financial statement auditing standard issued by AICPA, PCOB standard issued for the integrated report. In addition to that, they require to additional audit requirement for the compliance with law and regulation, as well as the contractual requirement for which they have given the grants or maybe award any financial aid to the respective company. When the government audit is being required, when your two things: one, if it is a government entity, or second, if you have received any grant, award, or financial assistance from the government agency. In that case of scenario, the governmental audit is being required. When governmental audit is being required, you need to follow the 𝐂𝐻. So the 𝐂𝐻 has the requirement as per AICPA auditing standard plus PCOB requirement of auditing standard plus compliance with the law and regulation plus any additional requirement to meet with the contractual requirement for achievement of the respective award or financial assistance that your company is being receiving from the government as a government grant or financial assistance, right? So this thing you need to keep in mind, then it will make your life easy to absorb all these notes. And do you guys remember few things from like chapter 2 when we have discussed more in detail about like Government Accountability Office and Government Auditing Standard? Like Government Auditing Standard, also called Yellow Book. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And Government Auditing Standard are called 𝐂𝐻, which is Generally Accepted Government Auditing Standard. What is the full form of 𝐂𝐻? Generally Accepted Government Auditing Standard. Generally accepted. Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir. Generally accepted government auditing standards.
Right. And who issue those 𝐂𝐻 is GAO, Government Accountability Office. Right. So Government Accountability Office issue 𝐂𝐻, which is also called Yellow Book, need to follow when you are doing the audit of any government entities or the entity who has received any grant, award, or financial assistance from the government. And typically they impact the entity in a public accounting as required by the law, regulation, and other arrangement. Right. So if you see here, first point, Government Auditing Standard. So Government Auditing Standard, here it's been clearly mentioned, also called Yellow Book, also called Yellow Book and 𝐂𝐻. Right. 𝐂𝐻 are also called 𝐊𝐿𝐿 and it is being issued by the Comptroller General of United States of America of the US Government Accountability Office. So US Government Accountability Office issue GAGAS or 𝐊𝐿𝐿 and it's typically impact the entity with the public accountability that required by law, regulation, contract or any arrangement who has received any grant or any financial assistance from the government or government body. Right, relationship of GAGAS to the financial statement audit, how the financial statement audit is being integrated or considered under the GAGAS. First one is the supplement the says when performing financial statement audit, auditor must reference that audit is being performed in accordance with set of both the standards. So when you are doing financial statement audit under the GAGAS, in that you need to mention both the thing. You have audited the financial statement in accordance with the statement of auditing standard issued generally accepted statement of auditing standard issued by the AICPA and GAGAS issued by the GAO, right? That you need to mention in your report. What is GAGAS? GAGAS is equal to financial statement audit auditing standard plus internal control over financial reporting auditing standard plus compliance with law and regulation plus provision for any contractual or grant agreement. So all those things you need to follow to comply with the GAGAS. Make sense? This is very similar what we have studied in chapter 2. Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So entity may or may not require a compliance with the federal award. So that is called single audit. So which company are required to conduct the single audit? So there was certain threshold, if you guys remember, right? Do you remember $750,000 threshold?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes,
Right?
sir.
Yes.
If you have
Yes,
received
sir.
and expended the award for more than $750,000, then it is mandatory for you to go with the single audit. And in single audit, there are type A and type B category of audit, right? Which is based on the risk. If it is being identified as a low risk, then it is type A. If it is being identified as a high risk, then it is type B. In the low risk, you need to conduct up to 20%, and for the high risk, you need to conduct minimum 40%, something like that. Right? We'll be discussing that as well. Varying audit objective. So audit objective is for the financial statement audit is risk identifying, risk of material misstatement, and evaluating the risk of material misstatement. Internal control, the objective is ensure the design and operating effectiveness of internal control and may be performed in accordance with the statement of standard on attestation and may be performed in accordance with the PCAOB standard number 5. Next is compliance audit objective. First, we have studied objective of financial statement audit. Second, we have understood objective of internal control audit. Third is compliance audit objective. Third one is compliance audit. Compliance audit is equal to risk of material non-compliance. So here compliance may include compliance with law and regulation and compliance with the requirement to achieve those respective grant and financial assistance which the entity has received or expected to be received from any government entity or such authority. Right, law, regulation and provision of contract or grant agreement that could have direct material effect, and the financial statement as a whole or each major federal program depend on the scope of audit. So here you need to understand, like, which will be coming to type A and type B. How do you determine the scope of single audit? We'll be discussing in next few minutes about that, and based on that you'll be performing the respective audit of the financial assistance or financial program which you have received as a government grant, government assistance or financial aid. Now coming to the responsibility of internal controls and the SAS requirement. Financial statement audit in conformance with SAS. So here the responsibility as an auditor, our responsibility is to understand the design and implementation to assess risk and design nature, timing and extent of the further audit procedure required, consider need to be test the operating effectiveness, and communicate the significant deficiency and material weakness in writing to the management and those charged with governance. When it comes to internal control audit of the along with the financial statement, what are the responsibility of the auditor? First one is to ensure the design effectiveness, and the second one is implementation or operating effectiveness, right? And if there is any material weakness has been identified, then you need to report that or communicate that to the management and those charged with governance. Internal control responsibility under the 𝐂𝐻 financial statement audit in conformance with the yellow book, plus same basic requirement as per SAS, which we have discussed above. In addition to that, you need to communicate the significant deficiency and material weakness in the report on internal control, right? Then coming to the third piece, we understood two pieces: financial statement audit, what is the requirement as per 𝐂𝐻, additional requirement. For internal control audit, what is the additional requirement as per 𝐂𝐻. Now coming to the third piece, which is compliance audit, right? The responsibility over there, financial statement audit in conformance with SAS, assess the risk that non-compliance with law, regulation, contract or agreement could have a direct and material effect on the financial statement, and design further audit procedure to as it deemed necessary. So wherever you have seen any non-compliance with the law and regulation, if you are not complying with the law, regulation or contractual requirement for the financial assistance or aid you have received or you are expected to be received, in that case of scenario, you need to ensure the repercussion of the non-compliance on that federal assistance and award, and you need to consider the impact of the same on the financial statement audit. For example, your company has invested, let's say, $1 million on research and development expenditure for, let's say, any healthcare project which comes under the government grant program, right? But government has given certain guidelines and you have not complied with that guidelines. Even though you have spent $1 million, but you will not be receiving any government grant. So you cannot account for the government grant here. So that's what it means. If you are in any non-compliance with the law, regulation or contractual requirement, then you should be consider the impact of the same in your financial statement. So management cannot say we have spent $1 million and will be receiving the grant. They cannot book the receivable unless and until they comply with the respective law and regulation requirement. Make sense? Yes? No?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And if there is any material non-compliance matter, then it's your responsibility to communicate to those charged with governance, either orally or in writing. It's always preferred to communicate in writing, right? Next, additional requirement of compliance as per 𝐂𝐻 financial statement audit in conformity with the yellow book, same basic requirement as per SAS, and then communicate the material non-compliance in report on compliance and other matters. So there, for as per the 𝐂𝐻, you will be issuing a separate report and you will be considering and communicating the impact of the non-compliance in that particular report, right? Next is any fraud, abuse or illegal act you have identified. So what will be your responsibility? For financial statement audit in conformity with the SAS, first is reasonable assurance that no material misstatement due to fraud has been noticed or identified, right? No responsibility to plan audit to detect the illegal act or abuse. So it is not your primary responsibility to detect all the frauds and misstatements. So you'll be performing your, you'll be planning and performing your procedure to obtain the reasonable assurance, not the absolute assurance, right? And your audit procedure are always subject to the detection risk. Third is communicate to those charged with governance, orally or in writing, all known and potential fraud or other than trivial illegal act. Trivial mean like very small. So all material illegal act, fraud which you have identified or observed during your financial statement audit, so it's been your responsibility to communicate to those charged with governance, right? Consider the impact of internal control and communicate the same to the management and those charged with governance if you have identified any fraud, abuse or illegal act. when you are conducting or performing the audit of financial statement. Right? When you are auditing under the 𝐂𝐻, what are your responsibility for any fraud, abuse, or illegal act? In addition to financial statement audit, which you have discussed above, communicate the material fraud and material abuse to the report of compliance and other matter as well. So when you are issuing a separate report on compliance and other matter, there you need to communicate the fraud or any misstatement or any illegal act which you have identified, which is material to the overall financial statement, and report any other instance that warrant attention of those charged with governance on a priority basis. 𝐂𝐻 definition of abuse. What is abuse as per 𝐂𝐻? Behavior that is deficient or improper when compared with the behavior that prudent person would consider reasonable and necessary business practice given the fact and circumstances. Maybe qualitative or quantitative materiality. You need to consider when you have identified or when you are evaluating any item to be illegal, fraud, or abuse. So you need to consider the materiality of the same, and you need to evaluate how a prudent person would be behave in certain situation. That is due care. Like if something is of your own, what due care you would be taking? Would you be taking the due care and responsibility of the company's assets and other, you can say, investment or cash, etc. Right? The 𝐂𝐻 reporting consideration may issue a single report on internal control, compliance, and other matters. So you can issue like separate report, or you can issue a one consolidated report on financial statement, internal control, compliance, and other matters, which is called an integrated report under the 𝐂𝐻. Must include written view of the responsible official within the report, including the corrective action plan. Audit results that matter in the public interest. So you need to categorize severity of the deficiency and other finding which you have identified as a prudent official test. Auditor report are matter in the public record. So when you are doing an audit of any government companies, government entity or entity who has received any grant or financial assistance from the government, so whatever the audit you are conducting will be coming in the report will be coming in the public domain at large. So it's been your responsibility toward the general public to provide more due care and professional skepticism when you are applying audit procedure under the 𝐂𝐻. And you may inquire the direct communication with the third party wherever it is needed, whether it's for legal compliance, whether it's for bankers, whether it's for customer. Third party confirmation of those procedures are more important to be performed. Disclose in report if certain confidential or sensitive information is omitted and reason thereof. So if it has come to your attention that any material disclosure which is required to be disclosed and the company is not disclosing the same, then it has been your responsibility to communicate those requirement and the reason why the company has not considered those disclosure in your report. Right? Let's do a few practical question over here. Are you guys here? Ready for a few practical question for the government
Yes, sir.
audit?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So first one is generally accepted government auditing standard use which of the following term to describe professional requirement to comply with the standard or provide special explanation for not doing so. First one is explanatory requirement, second is conditional requirement, third is unconditional requirement, fourth is presumptively mandatory requirement. So which term under the 𝐂𝐻 we use which make certain things to be mandatory to perform out of this four? Simple answer or any doubt? Yeah, Sanchit, Kashish, Rahul. What is the call of the question? Generally accepted government auditing standard, that means 𝐂𝐻. Use which of the following terms? So they are asking which term 𝐂𝐻 use to describe the professional requirement to comply with the standard. So which term under 𝐂𝐻 is being used to ensure in the compliance with the requirement of the standard? explanatory requirement, conditional requirement, unconditional requirement, or presumptively mandatory requirement. Did you understand call of the question? Sanchit, Gurmehar, Rahul, Kashish.
सर क्वेश्चन तो समझ आ गया सर.
Yes, sir. Question तो आ गया समझ.
But chapter 2 पढ़े हुए बहुत दिन हो गए.
नहीं सर रिवाइज नहीं करा पढ़ा बस रिवाइज नहीं करा.
Yeah, so if you go back to the chapter 2 where we studied in detail about the gas requirement, you will see like presumptively mandatory requirement are those requirements which force the auditor to follow gas and the respective standards. Right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Cool. Second one is government auditing standard, generally accepted auditing standard in financial statement audit for the entity that require to have a compliance audit. So GAGAS and financial statement audit for the entity is required to have compliance audit, which is supplement, are in replaced, or do not consider. So compliance audit is being part of the GAGAS audit, or it's just an replacement, or we do not consider, or I don't know what is the meaning of supplant. What is the meaning of supplant? Any idea? Are you guys with me?
सर अभी ऊपर ही पढ़ा था ना सप्लीमेंट.
Supplant.
और सप्लीमेंट.
What do you mean by supplant? Any idea?
Supplant means to take the place of somebody or something, especially somebody or something older or less powerful.
मैं भी बस यही पढ़ रहा था. शायद मतलब old version को नया replace कर रहा है. I think
Replace. So second or third is almost same meaning. Like,
Yes.
okay. So what is the call of the question?
So the GGAS entity is required to have a compliance audit based on what? So basically, yeah, it's a supplement only, so like additional. It is not replaceable, and it's not do not consider as well.
Yeah, Gurmehar, Kashish, Rahul.
I agree with Sanchit. So it's a supplement only.
सर ऊपर भी यही हमने पढ़ा अभी सप्लीमेंट में.
So this is like additional requirement. So it's in supplement requirement, not the replacement, right? Of the financial statement audit. Cool. Last question. When reporting on an entity's internal control structure under the government auditing standard, an auditor should issue written report that include what? So under GAGAS, when you issue a written report, audit report, what should we consider there? A statement of negative assurance that nothing come to the auditor attention. Do you issue negative assurance for GAGAS audit?
No, sir.
You will be issuing reasonable assurance, right?
Yes,
So first
yes.
answer is wrong. Second is statement of positive assurance that
No, sir.
result.
No.
Okay. Description of the weakness considered to be significant deficiency and the strength that the auditor can rely on in reducing the extent of substantive testing. Any such language do you use in audit report?
No,
नहीं
sir.
सर नहीं सर.
No.
Fourth one, description of the scope of work, scope of auditor work in obtaining an understanding of the internal control structure and assessing the control risk. So you'll be mentioning how you have gained the understanding of the internal control and how you have assessed the control risk to gain the comfort over the internal controls, right? So that's the reason fourth answer is right. Make sense?
Also, sir, like in the third point, it says about the weakness and the significant deficiencies, which usually we don't mention in any report in
Which
those
go in
language.
the opinion paragraph.
Yes.
Right.
एंड सर 4 पॉइंट में सर इसको मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट का भी पॉइंट ऐड होना चाहिए था आई गेस.
So it depends. Like this question is around like internal control stuff. So that's the reason they mention only control risk.
Got it.
Okay. So in the governmental audit, the other thing is single audit. So we discuss this also in detail in chapter 2, single audit, act for the compliance audit. So reporting objective of single audit engagement. So audit of financial statement in accordance with Yellow Book or GAGAS, and audit of schedule of expenditure of federal award. So what is single audit is basically auditing of the schedule of expenditure of federal award. That means, for example, you have received $1 million as a government grant or federal award. How much out of that $1 million you have spent, you need to maintain a separate expenditure account. So for single audit, you need to audit that separate account in which you have expended that government fund or federal award which you have received in relation to the financial statement as a audit as a whole in accordance with SAS. Right. In addition to that, report on internal control over compliance related to the major program. So in that, for example, you have received $1 million from the government fund or government awards, but you have received that $1 million, $500,000 from one regulatory agency, $200,000 from another regulatory agency, and $300,000 from another regulatory agency. So there are three agencies who has given you 500, 300, and $200,000, right? In total, you have received $1 million of government grant or federal award. So for that, you will be maintaining three separate accounts, right? So each account is considered as an each program for the respective purpose. That is called major program. That is called programs. So here you need to test those major programs. So how do you calculate the major program? We'll come to that. Report on compliance with each program. So reasonable assurance about whether the non-compliance that could have direct and material effect on the major federal program occurred or not, that you need to report. Define the federal award. How do you define the federal award? Federal financial assistance and federal cost reimbursement contract that auditee received directly from federal awarding agency or indirectly from pass-through entity. You remember cognizant agencies? What is cognizant agencies? Any idea? In the definition section also we have studied about cognizant agency, if you remember.
Yes. So cognizants
Yes,
are
sir.
those agencies which will be distribute the the awards to the different entities.
Absolutely true. So cognizant agency plays like a role as a middleman. So they receive the fund from the government, they identify the entity, they do the audit, and they perform all the compliance check, and accordingly they distribute the funds to the respective entity, right? And do you remember what is OMB, official management budget, which is like total budget for basis which they make the allocation of the funds, and that required all requirements for the compliance with the respective federal award, and how that cognizant agency need to play the role of collection and distribution of the fund and the monitoring of those funds. In addition to that, they need to conduct the audit on a need basis to the respective agencies who have received the fund, right? Procurement contract that we have discussed. And then here, what is non-cash consideration? So when you receive any government grant, so it may be in cash or it may be in kind. So what all things need to be considered as non-cash consideration, which you need to consider and you need to value at a fair value. First one is food stamp. If you have received donation surplus property, you have received, let's say like government has given you any property to use, right? If they have given you the property as a whole to use it for a specific purpose, right? So in that case of scenario, fair value of that property would be considered as a grant, right? And if they have given you any, you can say office premises for the use purpose only, so in that case of scenario they are not charging rent to you, So that waiver of the rent is being considered as a government grant. Right? Makes sense? So first point, if you see food stamp, donation of surplus property. Second is free rent received alone. Free rent received alone is not a non-cash consideration, whereas free rent received as a part of federal award to carry out federal program activity is considered as a non-cash consideration. Generally, we will be valuing all these things on a fair value basis at the time of receipt of the respective award from the respective agency. Next is recent significant change related to federal award. So it's saying like in December 2013, they have released new chapter for the you can say OMB, which is A133. So which has changed certain rules. So which is being applies from 2013 onwards. So it's being like kind of redundant data, just for your knowledge only. Who will be affecting with the revised OMB guidance? Federal agencies, state government, central government, local government agency, not-for-profit organization, institutional or tribes. Consolidation of multiple OMB circular. So in 2015, I think they have issued a circular, OMB circular A133, which has consolidated all past circular and come up with the single guidance. So you just need to remember OMB circular 133. So this is sufficient for you to remember about it. The next is single audit threshold. Hope you remember $750,000, $750,000 or more is required a single audit, right? If it is less, then single audit is not required. So these all change came under the circular number A33. So there are also, like we have studied about type A and type B program. So we'll be discussing more in detail, like low risk area or low risk program is called type A and high risk program is called type B. All these guidance has also come under the OMB circular A33. So how do you determine which program is a major program or which program is not a major program? It's a 4-step process. Step 1 is determination of the major program. For the fiscal year beginning from 1st January 2015, entity with the total federal award expended $10 million or less is considered as type A. A threshold is $300,000 of the federal award expended. For entity with the total award expended for $10 million or more, the threshold is $300,000 to start increase. But all this guidance has been changed in 2015 and it is revised to this table. If you see, the entity has received the federal award of $750,000 to $25 million. Then threshold category of type A and B is $750,000. If they have received in a range of $25 million to $100 million, then it is 0.3%. So it is 3% of the federal award is the threshold. If they have received the award in a range of $100 million to $1 billion, then $3 million, $1 billion to $10 billion, then it is 0.3%. And if it is $10 billion to $20 billion, then $30 million. And if it is exceeding $20 billion, then total federal award multiplied by 0.15%. So that's the threshold amount for which an individual program you need to test. So that is like materiality limit for identification of the material awards or material programs which you need to test. Safe harbor guidelines. Step 1 for the larger loan, that's not material. Step 2 of the major program, determination of low risk. Yeah, this is important. How do you identify the low risk of type A and high risk of type B program? So earlier there was like a circular, multiple circular, which has been revised now to the A33. So type A program, which is low risk if both the conditions met. First is audit as a major program in at least one out of the 2 most recent years. So if in current year or in any previous 2 years, you have done the detailed audit of the program in 1 out of the 2 year, that is current year or previous year or previous 2 years, you have conducted the audit in 1 year, then you can consider the risk is low in that program. Second is no finding has been identified. So in the previous 2 years, one audit has been conducted for that program and there is no finding or misstatement has been noticed. Then that program can be considered as a low risk program. Whereas as per the revised OMBM guidelines, the type A program is low risk if both the conditions met. First, audit of the major program in at least one of the two most recent year, and no material weakness, no modification, compliance opinion, or any question of the cost has been observed, and total award value is less than 5%. So then that particular program is called low risk program. Step 3 is identification of high risk program. Two options available based on the specific
Sir,
formula.
we will consider revised OMB ना?
Yes, yes.
ये तो outdated हो गया ना? OMB
yes.
circular A163.
Yes, yes. Here additional things have been added. This, right? As compared to, so earlier it was only no finding, but now they are going to the material weakness level as well. That means internal control also should not be having any weakness. Now coming to the high risk program. So two options available based on the specific formula. First one is generally only required to perform a risk assessment on type B program which is greater than $100,000, and sliding scale of entity is $33 million federal award expended. But now you need to look at right hand side only. Not required to identify more high risk type B program then at least 25% of the number of low risk type A program. So up to 25% you can consider as a low risk. Beyond that, you need to assess the risk in the number of program you have reached, and only required to perform the risk assessment on type B program which is greater than 25% of the type A total threshold which you have determined. That means $750,000 is the total threshold, right? And 25% of that, which is let me do the math. What is 751,234 into 0.25? So $187,500. So any award greater than $187,500 only would be considered as a high risk. If any award is less than 187,500, this we have discussed in chapter 2 in detail. So I have made the specific table for those values as well. So maybe like this chapter you can connect with this chapter 2 where we have discussed more in detail about the governmental audit. So but you come to the same number 187,500. Any amount below that which you have received may not be considered as a high risk because that is not material to the overall government grant or federal assistance you have received. Last one, step 4 of the major program determination process. Step 4.
सर एक क्वेश्चन था कि सर जब हम पहले करते थे तो सर अगर जब टाइप मतलब रिस्क अगर हाई होता था अगर प्रोग्राम में तो सर हम 40% स्पेंड करते थे एक्सपेंडिचर में, राइट? और अगर लो होता था तो
टेस्ट अप टू 40%, मिनिमम 40%. If the risk is high, then we test at least 40% of the total assistance received.
एंड सर जब लो था 20% करते हैं, लेकिन रिवाइज वाले में 25 हो जाए. नहीं सर, लो में तो हम 20% करते हैं ना एक्सपेंडिचर में.
Yes.
लेकिन अब वो रिवाइज होकर 25 हो गया.
No. So in that 40%, individual program should be greater than 25% of the value. So for example, let's say you have received $10 million grant from 5 different agencies. From one agency you have received $5 million. From second agency you have received, let's say, $3 million. Third agency you might have received $2 million, and from fifth and sixth agency you have received only 500,000. Right? So in that case of scenario, probably fifth or sixth are not material to the overall grant. So why you need to test? So to calculate the threshold for those is 25% of the ceiling limit. Make sense? Right, everyone? Sanchit, Gurmehar, Rahul. Good?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So revise OMBM guidelines for the step 4. Step 4, of the major program, determination of the process related to actual selection of the program to be performed to the audit. First, select all type A program not identified as a low risk in step 2, and select the high risk type B program to identify in step 3, and consider if there is any program to be audited as a major based on federal agency request. So first you identified all low risk item, second the identified high risk item, third if there is any specific item which is being requested by the federal agency who has given you the grant, that mandatorily need to be audited to comply with their requirement. So then all those federal awards and program will be performing the audit. The final step is application of the percentage cover rule, which is 20% and 40%. Elimination of certain guidance of OMB A33 related to the first year audit. If it is your first year audit, few things which you can eliminate or maybe ignore. OMBA Circular A33 may depart from 4-step process for the first year audit. For first year audit, there are certain relaxation. First year single audit or change in auditor, elect all type A program plus type B until the percentage of the cover rule met. That is your 20% or 40% requirement. May only be used once in every 3 years. Revise OMB for step 4. If you see right hand side, which is only important, 40% of the total award for the high risk, 20% of the total award for the low risk. Right, let's do 2 questions over here. First one, in accordance with OMB audit requirement of audit of non-federal entity expending federal award, which of the following statement is accurate regarding the federal award expenditure? Here they are saying an entity which is not government entity but they have received the government grant, right? For them, which of the following statement is true? First is donated surplus property cannot be valued at assessed value provided by the federal agency. So here we have understood earlier that need to be valued at fair value, not the assessed value. So first point is untrue, right? Second is food stamp cannot be valued at fair market value at the time of receipt, whereas food stamp need to be valued at fair market value at the time of receipt. So answer 2 is also wrong, right? Third is government loans are classified as non-cash assistance program. The answer is no, it is considered as cash assistance. Fourth is free rent received as a part of award to carry out the federal program is treated as federal funded expenditure. So answer is yes. Make sense? Any doubt on first question?
No, sir.
Cool. The second question, under 2 CFR chapter 212 part 200 release in December 2013, that means amendment made in 2013, the threshold for a single or program specific federal award was established for non-federal entity that expend dash or more than a year of federal. So this we have discussed earlier, 750,000.
Yes, sir.
Right? So this is all about governmental audit. Now coming to the last piece for the today's class, which is specific purpose and other country framework. What are the specific purpose and other country framework? Like IFRS financial statement, right? Tax basis or maybe any contractual basis requirement. Those kind of financial statement are called special purpose or other country framework. Modification, what is the modification required in the audit report for special purpose reporting framework? First, identify the applicable reporting framework. You need to mention the specific framework which you are using to conduct the audit or which management has used to prepare the financial statement, right? Second is management responsibility for the preparation and fair presentation as per the special reporting framework, and management responsibility for determining the framework is acceptable in the circumstances. So you need to clearly mention the management responsibility and describe the purpose why you are using this special purpose financial reporting framework. Then it's mandatory to mention emphasis of meta paragraph when you are not using US GAAP, right, which we have discussed earlier in the last class for the reporting section. The financial statement are prepared in accordance with the special purpose reporting framework. You need to mention which reporting framework and you need to mention the notes which you will be describing the reporting purpose framework and the basis of the reporting, and alternatively describing the basis that's state that the framework is a comprehensive basis of accounting other than GAAP. So that's specifically you need to mention in emphasis of meta paragraph. And then if you are giving an audit report on the contractual or regulatory basis of accounting, right, in that financial statements are prepared in accordance with the contractual or regulatory basis that you need to mention, and add the other meta paragraph restricting the use of the audit report to the relevant party, which we have studied in last week in class. If you are using any regulatory or contractual basis of accounting, then your audit report should have a restriction paragraph, right? In presentation and disclosure of special purpose reporting framework, do not use the GAAP item identified in financial statement. Instead of balance sheet, use the statement of assets and liability. So when you are you can say drafting an audit report as per GAAP, then you will be mentioning balance sheet, income statement, cash flow statement, equity statement, and notes to accounts, right? When you are using other purpose financial reporting framework, then you will be saying instead of balance sheet, you will be using the terminology statement of assets and liability. Instead of income statement, you will be saying statement of revenue and expenditures. Make sense? This is the different terminology which you need to use in your audit report. Simple? Yes, no? कुछ तो बोल रहा हूँ.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All disclosure appropriate for fair presentation should be included. If GAAP disclosure are relevant to the financial statement, they should be included. Include the disclosure that discuss the basis of presentation and describe how different from the US GAAP. How it is different from the US GAAP. Now, management responsibility section in your report. Management is responsible for preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with the cash basis. This is an example, let's say, for cash basis of accounting described in specific note. Right? That's how you need to draft the management responsibility section. And this includes determining the cash basis of accounting is an acceptable. Cash basis of accounting is acceptable basis for preparation and fair presentation of the financial statement in the circumstances. And management is also responsible for design, implementation, and maintenance of internal control relevant to the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statement free from material misstatement. And opinion paragraph. How do you draft opinion paragraph when you are using special purpose reporting framework? In our opinion, financial statement referred to the above present fairly in all material respect the assets and liability. See here, we are not saying balance sheet. Assets and liability arising from cash transaction of the XYZ company and revenue collected and expenditure paid. Right? If you see here, you'll be mentioning assets and liability, revenue collected, and expenses paid, not the income statement during the year, then ended in accordance with the cash basis of accounting. So you'll be mentioning which basis of accounting you are using, describe in the respective note. Make sense? That's how you'll be drafting the opinion paragraph. And the basis of accounting paragraph, you'll be mentioning we draw attention to the notes number 2T of the financial statement, which describe the basis of accounting. The financial statement are prepared on a cash basis of accounting, right? And then you need to prescribe the respective form. If it is, you need to mention, you need to give the audit opinion in a prescribed format required by the contractual requirement or regulatory requirement. So there you need to give in the reference of the particular form, and then specify the financial statement element, account, and item when it's specifically mentioned. Report on the specific financial element if you are just auditing like specific accounts, agreed upon procedure kind of things. Engagement to report on summary financial statement and element of auditor report, what all things you need to consider. Express your opinion on the complete financial statement, date of report, type of opinion, whether the information is set forth in the financial statement or not, audit of selected financial data, what all things you need to consider. element of the auditor report for selected financial data. So indicate that the auditor has audited and expressed the opinion on complete financial statement, type of opinion which you have expressed on the financial statement, whether the information is fairly stated in the material respect in the relation to the complete financial statement or not. Right, those all things you need to be consider in your audit report for the special purpose reporting framework or the reporting framework for the other country. Make sense? Last question for the day. An entity prepare its financial statement on income tax basis. A description of how that basis differ from GAAP should be included where? Notes to accounts, auditor engagement letter, management representation letter, or introductory paragraph in audit report. What is the call of the question? Entity is preparing the financial statement on income tax basis, that is special purpose reporting framework, right? So the description of how this income tax basis of accounting is different than GAAP, where that need to be disclosed?
It should be in notes to account. The first one.
Why not engagement letter, management representation letter, or auditor report? Yeah, Kashish, Sanchit, Gurmehar. What's up?
Idea नहीं है actual में.
Why? We are discussing this many times.
नहीं sir, relate नहीं कर पा रहा.
What you are not able to relate?
So basically fourth में क्यों नहीं आ रहा ये? That is my point.
Introductory paragraph. It will not
Introductory
go in
paragraph. Introductory paragraph में होगा, but it will be a part of audit report.
Emphasis of meta paragraph, not introductory.
Okay. हमारे audit report से मैं doubt कर रहा था.
Right.
But anyhow audit report में तो included होगा.
हाँ, in the emphasis of meta paragraph, not in introductory paragraph.
और सर मैं यही पूछ रहा था कि emphasis of meta paragraph में क्यों नहीं है?
So here it is specifically mentioned introductory paragraph. Right? Cool. This is it for
लेकिन
today's.
होना तो उसी में चाहिए था ना, emphasis of meta paragraph में. Notes to accounts में क्यों होगा?
No, notes to accounts में ही तो होगा. So it has to be disclosed in notes to accounts, and in emphasis of meta paragraph you will be giving reference to that note for detail.
अच्छा हाँ, got it.
Right?
ठीक है.
Cool. This is all about the audit. So I'll send you the notes for rest of the two small topic as well. So that's very small and self-explanatory kind of miscellaneous things. Not much, but you're done with almost 100%. So wish you all the very best to prepare for the audit examination as early as possible. So whenever you are setting up exam, you need any guidance for the preparation, for the leave management or any such thing, feel free to call me, set up some time with me, and we can make a like one-on-one plan for your respective exam based on your respective preparation.
Okay sir. Sir जैसे notes complete हो गया, so is it possible कि आप अब पूरा एक मतलब consolidated document दे दो, because आप during the class you make some changes, right? So ऐसे possibility है if it's completed तो एक consolidated document ही दे दो.
Yes. Next month I'll give you the book.
Okay.
Yeah, 26 September we are launching.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, enjoy rest of your Sunday and see you in the FAR batch soon.
Sir, FAR का कब से हो रहा start हो रहा है?
हाँ, sorry.
FAR का batch कब से start हो रहा है?
We'll get back to you. Allow me some time to break.
थोड़ा late ही करना था start ना.
Yes, absolutely.
Next week हुआ.
हाँ.
Trip का भी तो plan बन रहा था.
हाँ, so Thursday I'm going to Kedarnath. If any of you are interested, you can join me.
अच्छा Thursday जा रहे हो?
Thursday, yes.
Oh, nice sir. Next time maybe then.
Yes,
ये तो जल्दी हो जाएगा.
Next time I think March we will plan for Vaishno Devi if you guys are interested. Same way like we went last year.
That's it. श्योर सर
Cool.
अभी तो पहले पेपर की तैयारी करें
That's most important. That's most important. चलो ठीक है. Enjoy rest of your Sunday and see you soon in FAR class.
थैंक यू सर
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, sir.